This holiday season, food demand is surging across the Bay Area. A new report from Santa Clara University highlights food insecurity as a serious concern in Santa Clara County, with some neighborhoods facing alarming hunger rates. Joining us live to talk about how their nonprofit is responding is Bill Lee, CEO of Martha's Kitchen. Good morning to you. Good morning, Stephanie. Well, Bill, this report is pretty concerning. It shows that food insecurity ranges from under 12% in some areas to over 30% in East San Jose. What does that tell us about hunger in the Bay Area from your perspective?
Well, I think one of the things that it tells us, this report, those numbers, by the way, are based upon after the existing service and safety net is there. In other words, after food banks, soup kitchens like Martha's Kitchen, etc. So it really highlights the fact that even though we're doing quite a bit to try to help combat hunger, it still remains a stubborn problem because there's a big gap between the rich and the poor are really struggling to get by in our area.
And how does your organization use data like this to decide where to focus its efforts?
Well, data like this helps us realize where the need is still not being met. For example, East San Jose, you just indicated, being above 30%. We actually had to relocate our operation because we grew, and we actually moved easterly, largely due to that, so that we could be closer to the clients that need our help. Because one other factor that exists for poor clients is transportation. They don't necessarily all have cars or a way to get to the assistance, so the assistance needs to come to them.
Now, we've talked a bit about East San Jose. What are some of the other challenging communities or zip codes that you're seeing need that extra support?
The far south, Santa Clara County, Gilroy in particular, is a very challenged area, and central San Jose remains a highly challenged area as well.
The study also mentions that even families who do receive food aid, they'll still skip meals sometimes. So can you help us understand why that's happening?
Well, yeah, just because they're getting aid, maybe it's SNAP, maybe it's food bank, maybe it's soup kitchen like us, doesn't mean that we're filling the entire void or that we even can fill the entire void. So, when people don't have enough money to pay the rent, keep the PG&E turned on, maybe keep gas in the car to continue to go to work, food is what gets cut for them. And so even though some of these folks get aid, they still end up having to skip meals.
And you mentioned SNAP. So how crucial are programs like SNAP and other nonprofit efforts to keeping hunger from getting worse? And in addition to that, we know that with the latest passage of a pretty significant bill through Congress, that SNAP benefits still face federal cuts moving forward.
SNAP is very important. SNAP helps families that are struggling to just get that little extra push. Food stamps, essentially, that's what SNAP is, been around for a long time, to try to help those that are at the bottom of the margins. With the cuts, it's going to leave more people that are in dire straits without the assistance. And we're very worried about it because we're already seeing more people beat a path to our door trying to take advantage of food assistance. In many cases, I think people don't realize a lot of people don't want to take advantage of food assistance. There's some stigma that goes with it. So there's pride that, hey, I'm going to make it on my own. I can do this on my own. But when the SNAP benefits didn't kick in November 1st for people, it made them realize how horribly bare their pantries really are, and that drove them to our door and is continuing to keep them at our door.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about how your organization is working right now, how you're partnering maybe with other nonprofits to really address these gaps and address hunger in the Bay Area.
Well, we're all kind of scrambling, to be honest, because the gaps are so big. In our space here in Santa Clara County, you have a food bank, you have some pantries like ours and some smaller organizations, and we do work together and we do communicate. But the biggest problem we're all facing right now is that the demand is knocking on our door, and we're all short of resources. And we share resources. We have direct relationships, for example, with growers, with dairies, with producers. And when we get too much, we'll share that with other partner agencies so nothing goes to waste. But even in the face of all of that, we still are all struggling to meet the need of the folks that are out there.
Now, so given this significant demand that you're all facing here, what sort of long-term solutions do you think could help reduce food insecurity here in the Bay Area, and how can the public really help?
Well, the ideal solution would be for the government to get involved. Obviously, with SNAP being cut, we're going the wrong way on the federal side, but the state and the county level really has not gotten that involved in this issue, and that would certainly help. For now, it leaves organizations like ours to try to fund the food gap completely privately through private individuals and foundations. So if folks want to get involved, there's a couple different ways folks can really make a difference. If they've got money, they can obviously donate. If they've got time and not money, they can volunteer. Our organization, for example, and many of the others in Santa Clara County are run heavily by volunteer labor. We get over 300 volunteers that come in every week for a minimum 2-hour shift. And if we didn't have that volunteer labor and we had to pay for that labor, that would just strain our financial resources even further and cause us to have to make further cuts to service.
Wow. Well, that's Martha's Kitchen CEO Bill Lee joining us, and we did have a link up that people can access to donate and, of course, get more information on how to volunteer. Bill Lee, CEO of Martha's Kitchen, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for your important work. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephanie.